Hey everyone, this is Ian for Bold Profits, and welcome to your weekly Friday video. This week, I just want to talk about something big that's gone on over the past week, and that is marijuana earnings. So, it's earnings season, of course, it's coming to an end, but all four of the big four, as we refer to them, of the marijuana companies reported their quarterly earnings this week, which is a big deal because we can see the things about their growth, how their business is doing, and what they see going on in the future. And by the big four companies, I mean Tilray, Kronos, Aurora Cannabis, and Canopy Growth. So whenever people discuss marijuana stocks, at least one of these companies is going to come up in conversation because these are the biggest four out there. They're the leaders in sales growth in most cases, and they're all multi-billion-dollar companies. So they're the most well-known. And they're actually kind of the stocks that we focus the most on when we're kind of evaluating the whole marijuana industry as a whole. And so it was kind of important that these four companies all reported their earnings in a 3 day span. And what we saw in their earnings report is that these companies are still growing like crazy. Over the past year, all four combined have grown their sales 219%. So they've more than tripled them in a year, which is pretty incredible. But the market expected more clearly because these are all down this week after reporting their earnings. And Paul and I have talked about this a lot because it's been pretty stressful to own marijuana stocks right now. And we have a few over our various services like Profits Unlimited, Extreme Fortunes, the $10 million portfolio. We're holding marijuana stocks in all of these newsletters, and it's been a rough ride. And this is exactly what a bottom feels like. It's like when there's no hope left and you just want to sell. Things have been going down straight in a straight line for like 8 months now in the marijuana sector. And all four of those stocks I mentioned, these multi-billion-dollar companies, are now 70% or more below their 52-week high, which is pretty incredible. And that's a big, big crash, especially for an industry that's growing so fast. But the thing is, it hasn't grown up to the market's expectations. And ultimately, there's two factors to that. So one is the market expected more clearly. Two is that everybody piled into these marijuana stocks in the beginning. So in 2018, and then in the beginning of this year, these stocks just went up in a straight line, like 100% or more in just the span of a couple months. That's what we can expect in any situation like that. It's kind of like a bubble situation. So everybody crowds into a trade, and unfortunately, at the top, there's nobody left to buy in at those prices. So people are happy taking profits or holding on because they're like, well, it went up 200% in 4 months. It's got to be going up more in the future. I don't want to sell here. Why do that when I could just hold on and make future gains? That is kind of like the psychological aspect of holding on through a big rise like that. And the opposite end of that, when stocks go down 70% in 8 months, you're like, I just want to get out of this. I don't want any more pain. But we believe that these stocks are going to come back. Where the downside here is very, very limited. So one of the ways that you can tell this is by how stocks are valued, in relation to the next year's sales. So if you watch Shark Tank, which I'm a big fan of, they talk about companies' expectations of future sales. So what are you going to make in the next year? And sometimes people are like, I don't know, and that's obviously a bad answer. They all are out at that point. But if they're like, I'm going to make probably around $100,000 next year, but their company is valued at $2 million, then the sharks are going to be out too because it's overvalued. And at the height of this, I don't want to say bubble, but it kind of was a bubble of marijuana stocks. These companies were valued at like 70 times the future sales. There's no way any of the sharks would have gone for that. Now they're down to below 10 times the future sales, which is normal in the stock market for something that's growing, especially when you're tripling your sales every year. So this is a much more reasonable spot for these stocks to be in, although it is tough to ride stocks down 70% or more. This is an area where we believe that these stocks are going to really start to bottom out and then go back up because once people see these stocks coming back up, marijuana is such a popular sector with people. It's kind of like a buzzword. So it has that kind of branding to trigger a rally when it does come back. So the bottom, we believe, is not far out. And last week in my Bold Profits Daily, I recommended to buy MJ, which is the marijuana ETF. I want to recommend to do that again because we do believe that the bottom is not far off. And we said that this quarter was going to be it where the stocks went up because of the growth that these companies have seen. We were right about the growth, but unfortunately, it didn't meet the market's expectations. And like I said, this is like what the bottom feels like in anything. It felt the same for Paul and I both in crypto. So we were holding on to Bitcoin when it was down around 5,000. It hovered around 5,000 for a few months. And then all of a sudden, within like a couple days, it dropped all the way down to 3,000. And we were like, wow, I didn't think it could go any lower than that. It's kind of crazy that that happened. This is exactly the same feeling that we're getting with marijuana stocks right now. When if you look at MJ, the price of that went to about 18, and then it went up, and we were like, this could be the start of a rally, especially because earnings season is coming up for these big stocks. That's a catalyst, of course, for a momentum shift. You get the upward momentum in these stocks, it could carry them pretty high. But it looks like this quarter was not it. We are still very bullish on this sector because, like I said, these companies tripled their growth. Over the next year, they're expected to more than double from here. So over 2 years, that's like 6 times growth that these companies are making in their sales, which is incredible. You hardly see this in any sector ever in the market. So we believe that the demand is going to come back into these stocks sooner rather than later. So buy MJ. Of course, don't put your whole amount of money into it. That's not smart with any stock. But this is something that we believe is going to be a great investment over the foreseeable future. And like I said, sooner rather than later, people are going to come back into these stocks. We do feel like the selling is almost over, and that feeling is kind of determined by, wow, I can't believe it actually got lower. Just like with crypto, Paul, of course, his famous buy into Bitcoin at like 3,200 right at the bottom. The exact same feeling as buying MJ right now. So that's my recommendation for the week. I just wanted to cover these stocks because I know that they are kind of popular with our audience, with our viewers, and with our readers. So I just wanted to cover that because I know there's probably a lot of like what's going on about this with these companies reporting such strong growth and such strong numbers and the stocks going down. So that is all that I have for this week. This is Ian Dyer for Bold Profits. Happy Friday, everybody. I hope everybody has a great weekend.